Welcome to Bear Lifestyle, the podcast where we speak up and speak out about all taboo topics and make them normal and acceptable. You are invited to be curious, to try something new, and stay open to provocative perspectives. I'm your host, Simona Spark, a best-selling author, international speaker, transformational coach, and so many other things. Beyond anything else, I'm a woman who stopped following other people's rules and started creating my own. In this space, we are going to get naked by stripping away insecurities, self-judgments, and all kinds of limitations so we can reach in for the essence of who we really are, Bear. Beautiful, authentic, real, and ever evolving. Thanks for listening. Welcome back, everyone. As I always start with a little chin to celebrate everybody. Do you have anything to drink, Miss Betsy? Yes. Chin. So I'm always celebrating myself first because I get to go first in my life, and then I'm celebrating our wonderful guest, Dr. Betsy Cairo, and I'm celebrating all of you that you are here with us today. So welcome. Now, Dr. Betsy Cairo here, we just laughed earlier before I hit the record button saying we kind of meet once a year in one of each other's podcasts, and that's kind of how we meet.
Yeah.
And here we are in this podcast.
Yes.
So her bio goes on 17 pages. So I will invite you, Betsy, if you don't mind, to just tell us in few words, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so I do wear a lot of different hats. I have my doctorate in human reproduction, and I own and direct the only commercial cryobank in Colorado. So I deal with preserving people's reproductive DNA and also working with people who are trying to get pregnant. That's my for-profit life. My nonprofit is called Look Both Ways. I'm the executive director of that. And that nonprofit is designed to help disseminate information on reproductive health education for all ages, including parents and guardians and anybody who's dealing with young people. So that's what I do. I'm a certified sexuality educator with supervisory standing, and I'm a board certified reproductive biologist.
And those are just few things, because you also host the podcast, It's Not Human Sexuality.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And you also wrote the book, the manual.
The book at the, how can I forget that? I wrote a textbook when I was teaching at the university, graduate and undergraduate level. And it's called The Biology, Psychology, and Sociology of Sexuality. And the one for teens is called The Biology, Psychology, and Sociology of Being. So basically it's the biopsychosocial model of who we are and how we come to be and understand. It's sort of like the user manual of being a person of all aspects, right?
I love that, the user manual of being a person.
Right.
And that's the reason that I invite you here. I want to focus on to tell us more and educate us or bring in our awareness the approach to how to hold the space for preteens and teens to allow them to be sexual beings as we all are.
Right.
And without the labels and the scarcity around it, right?
Right. And for me, I think that a lot is, for me, just in my avenue and how I approach it, we prefer to refer to it as reproductive health education rather than sex ed, because sex ed has such a bad reputation with respect to people just thinking, oh, you're just going to talk about sex or teach my kid about sex, or we're just going to get our sexy on. And I can understand why people who don't really understand what's involved in that topic of education, that's what they would think just based on the name. But reproductive health education really is a much better term, a much broader umbrella. And in that regard, it includes everything from anatomy and physiology to early childhood development, all the way up to, aging and everything that goes with that. So basically, it's a cradle to grave kind of model that isn't just about talking about being a sexual being, but talking about being a being, what music we like, why we wear the clothes we wear, our gender identity, our sexual identity, contraception, relationships, boundary setting, loss, drug abuse and misuse, all those things fall under that umbrella. And I think what people maybe don't understand or don't care to realize is that we do a lot of talking to our teens and actually to all ages about sexuality or sex or those sorts of puberty, but we don't do a lot of listening. We don't do a lot of asking questions, right? So when we say, oh, kids, if you teach them this, they'll just want to have sex, when actually the opposite is true. And so I think for me, when we talk about being a being or a person or human, that we have to keep in mind that it's all aspects of understanding.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. I'm also in a work of like doing identity work and looking at all the little zillions of pieces that makes one whole. And in this particular space, my focus when I create the space is to zoom on those little parts that are considered taboo. Like, why do we talk about fertility with a 12 years old? Why do we educate contraception methods for a 16-year-old and stuff like that, right?
Right. But those things are important because, we can't just come into a classroom of 8th graders and drop information about contraception. That's what I call helicopter teaching. And our type of teaching we like to refer to as airport teaching, where we start out on the runway, we gain momentum, we get some wind under our wings, we go out on a flight, and then we gently come back down and we land. And that's sort of the concept of it. You can come in and you can drop that information on a middle school class, but if they don't understand anatomy and physiology, if they don't understand childhood development, if they don't understand the stages of puberty, if they don't understand why they're doing the things they're doing or why they're thinking the way they're thinking, then why are you dropping in and just dumping some information on them when they don't have the prequel, to go with it? Because the level of understanding is based on the pre-knowledge. Like, for instance, we don't come in and start talking about calculus to 8th graders. We teach them math that leads up to that conversation so that they can so they're equipped and not overwhelmed to understand calculus. And that's how we approach reproductive health, that it's all age appropriate, age dependent learning. And it's critical that kiddos get this information before you just come in and talk about, oh, here's an STD, or here's the birth control pill, or this is what an IUD looks like. And that's why these programs fail, because they don't really give enough information leading up to the information they think teens should have.
Right. So they are not prepared to receive that level of information. So can we go back a little bit? Like, where is the foundation, and when can we start building this foundation for our children? And I'm really looking like, as a parent, raising my kid most of his life by myself, I've been dealing with a lot of judgment from other mothers that, why am I having this type of conversation with my kid? It's too early, he's too young, and all kind of sort of judgments. And it's like, when do we start talking with our children about what's going on with them, with their bodies, really?
Well, I think that, and that's a really good question. And that's why when we talk about reproductive health education and we talk about about all the categories that fall into it. And as I stated, it's all age appropriate, age dependent learning, but it all starts from the beginning. When we're teaching our littles language, right? We say, this is your nose, and this is your ear, and this is your mouth, and this is your elbow. But if we start moving a little bit further south, we point to anything in our pelvis and we say, and this is your pee-pee. And that's, don't do that, right? Use correct language. The minute you say that this is an elbow and that's a pee-pee, you have completely put that portion of their body into a different category, and have without knowing it, have shamed it. Right. And so, and then
it's infused with shame, with hiding,
right,
with fear,
like we can't say that word, right? So because it's a bad word, but it's not, it's a body part. And so if that's a pee-pee, right, then this is a blink, and that's a taste, and this is a bend. So we have to be consistent. So nobody calls an eye a blink, and nobody calls an elbow a bend. We call it what it is. And so there's nothing wrong with saying this is a penis, this is your vulva. It's just a part. Okay. And then when we start explaining that it has different functions and different reasons as they get older, then that's important. And there's, we talk about teaching kids boundaries. So that's part of reproductive health, right? Boundaries. We said, well, 8th graders, 9th graders, 7th graders, every kiddos, middle school on up need to set boundaries. Well, how are we going to teach those kids to set boundaries when they're in 6th grade, when we haven't shown them examples or taught them how to set boundaries when they're 5 or even when they're 3?
Yeah.
Like a perfect example of that is, I have grandkids, and when they were like 2 years old, 3 years, we still have a 2-year-old grandson. And, when they'd come over to visit and they'd go to leave, and my daughter might say, you want to kiss grandma and grandpa, but goodbye. And they'd say no. And we'd say, okay, we'll just wave to you. Right. That's allowing them to set a boundary, because no now means something.
Yeah.
But in the past, and historically, and certainly in my generation, oh, come on, you want to give grandma and grandpa a hug and a kiss. And they're like, actually, I really don't. Well, come on, go do that. Go do that. Go do that. Now you've just told them their voice doesn't matter. No doesn't matter. And even though you ask them their opinion doesn't matter. This is how we start teaching all the things that are in my textbook, age appropriate, age dependent learning moving forward. So when you see the media go, oh, this is outrageous, you're just going to teach my kid horrible things. What they don't understand is those things that we're teaching them are sort of common knowledge that they don't understand, need to be taught without even bringing in gender identity, sexual anatomy, and so did you see the point? So to add to your question, the answer is we start when they're little and we carry it all the way through. And that's how we do it. And we only answer the questions we're asked. People get really freaked out when someone little says, where do babies come from? The answer is from a special place in the body called a uterus. I mean, that's just the answer. That's the question.
That is the truth.
It is the truth. And they didn't ask you.
Can we just say the truth?
Oh, I don't know. Truth is hard to come
Instead
by.
of making up all the stories. I just have a conversation with my son the other day, like he's 19 now, but I don't even know how to come about some fairy tale story and whatever. We were talking about the movie that was made out of that. And I'm like, I don't get it. It doesn't entertain me. I think it's bullshit. And he was like, do you realize that all the kids' story like are very they just distortion the reality? I'm like, I know, I never read you a bedtime story because they're all so horror. Like they will scare me that they're gonna come and they're gonna get you alive, or like everything is like so dramatic. And I'm like, no, let's talk about puppies and clouds so you could go to sleep in peace, not terrified.
Yes. And there's a lot to be said for that. And so I think when we're talking about alarming our children or terrifying them, it's exactly what you said. It's how you bring the story to life and how you are and make it sort of nonchalant, like
Mhm.
like I said, my grandkids are little. They're 2 years old, 5 years old, and 7. And we don't hide anything. We're just like, this is, it's a penis. It's not a pee-pee. And
Exactly.
these are breasts, and it's just what they are. It's just like, that's a car and this is a pen, so but it's really interesting how everybody just gets so freaked out about kids having proper anatomy. It's just weird.
Well, in my opinion, they freak out because they don't have their own education and they're not comfortable in their own skin.
Definitely. I think that's true. I think that's one of the reasons why schools shy away or, turn a blind eye to having this type of curriculum, a full curriculum, a full, full blown 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th on up curriculum for this topic. They don't know how to make room for it, or don't want to make room for it. They don't want to give their teachers professional development that are trying to figure out how to do this correctly. And I don't know if they just don't care. I mean, I know everybody's overwhelmed and just coming out of the pandemic and all the things. And I really wish we could blame it on the pandemic, but this has been going on since
For
I was
years.
little.
Yeah.
Decades, and we're still in the same position. And I'm tired. I'm tired of the same old excuse. Well, the kids aren't ready for it. The kids are ready for it.
The kids are ready for it. The teacher is not ready for it. The teacher is uncomfortable talking about the topic, which is, it just makes no sense to me. I read that book and I'm not trained to be a teacher, but like that book is just golden. Like I learn a lot from it, and yet I learn a lot from it as an adult.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it's like so well done that it's just so freaking brilliant, Betsy. So make no sense to me why you will not take that into a classroom. For a fact, you teacher educator, then the majority of parents do not do their work at home, and they put it on school responsibility to raise their children and educate them, including with biology and with their bodies and all that, which is
yes. Mm-hmm.
Which is just so not right, because we need to do our part before we put the kids in in school and expect the teacher to do everything. Mm-hmm. But you teacher educator, you've been there for decades, and you know that the parents don't do their job. Now you have an opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I know. I don't either. It's mind numbing, really. Actually, I think that, that's one of the reasons we started the podcast. It's called It's Not Human Sexuality. And the first 2 seasons are taken excerpts and discussions directly out of the textbook. The first season is pretty much textbook. We talk about anatomy, physiology, and boundaries and styles of love and puberty, contraception. So it's sort of like the book on tape. And I recommend it for any parent who wants to have an understanding of how to talk to their kids. I recommend it for kids in high school who want to learn more. They can listen to it. But then the 3rd season, we interview people, we interviewed you, and we interviewed other people with life experiences to show the audience that this doesn't go away as we get older. And for some of us, we learn the hard way about what we should have known earlier. We had an intern last year, a high school intern, and I gave her a copy of the high school textbook, and she read it cover to cover. And every morning I'd come in on the day she was there, and she'd be reading it, highlighting things, and then she'd have a whole list of questions. And I would sit down and we would have an hour-long conversation about whatever she was reading, and explaining to me that she had a complete misunderstanding of several items in there, and was so grateful that she had this book. And the other part of it was that she would then share with her friends who weren't, privy to this internship, and they were just amazed, this is so cool. You have this book, we can talk about it. This is so great. I can't believe you get to do this. And that was a one-on-one, right? For,
Yeah.
15 weeks. And so and she loved it. And we still stay in touch. She's heading off to go to college, and, she's well prepared, more
Yeah.
prepared than she would have been. And so I think, trying to get it into schools is very difficult. So we're just looking at other avenues. Like I said, that's why we started our podcast.
So you could count on me. And if that
Yes, of
book
course.
is available for purchase, I'm like more than happy to promote it. I read it. I recommend it. I talk about it all the time with anybody that I have opportunity to talk about. And I don't have the ways to get in schools. I try in New Zealand.
Yeah, I know. I was grateful for that, but it's tough.
But maybe that will be an option. I don't know. We explore here live, like, hey, let's publish it and let's buy it piece by piece, from family to family, from teen to teen, from parent to parent. Because I'm here like building a business. I build a business, and my clients are like the result of not having that education, myself included. So now here we are, and people in 30s, 40s, 50s try to figure out what the hell is happening and why we are so low self-esteem, and we went through so much in life. It's like, yeah, if we will have that education, our life could have looked a little bit differently.
Yeah. And I think that I heard that a lot, I heard that from my college students. I wish I'd had this in high school. I would have made maybe different decisions or different choices, or maybe not, but at least the choices they made would have been informed. Like, if you do this, this is the consequence. Can you live with that? And if the answer is yes, then knock yourself out. If you can't live with that, then pick a different path, right? And we don't teach that to our kids, because we don't give them enough information to be accountable. We tell them you need to be accountable, but they don't even know what they need to be accountable to, because they don't have enough information to pick their own adventure, right? They don't need to say, they just don't get it. And we have, there's this in the news, this little kid, he was 12, 13, he hung himself in his room because this just recently happened. He was being bullied at school, and everybody knew about it. The administration knew about it. Parents knew about it. The bully had been suspended or a couple of times because of it. And then I guess this little guy had enough one day and just came home and hung himself. And even though he was getting what sounds like support and acknowledgement, the bullying never stopped. And I think he just couldn't do it any longer. And so I think, when we talk about suicide, which is also in the book, kids, young people look at suicide differently than adults. And I don't mean to be flippant, but a lot of them think, well, I'm having a really bad day, so tonight I'll kill myself, and tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll have a better day. So it's not really thought out, what the permanence of it. Maybe for some kids it is, but really overall, probably not. Adults think about it, plan it, try it maybe, or try it out, don't, come back and then maybe decide not to or decide to, but it's a thought process. For kids, it's an impulse. And we need to teach that. We need to teach that is an impulse, so that they understand that what an impulsive behavior is and what it means and the consequences of it, so that maybe they'll pick a different path instead of hanging themselves in their room.
Like, this is not even like scary. This is reality.
Oh yeah, it's not that bedtime. I know.
It's just that I always say it's never the kid, it's always the parent. And like, that's like, yeah, nobody could change my mind about that, because it's all the evidence that I find. And the expectation of having my child to make smart and educated decision without no information or education is just simply impossible.
Yes, it is. And it's asking a lot. But I think more importantly, and this is one of the things I know you do really well, is you have this trust factor and this open communication with your son. And that's, to me, the biggest piece, because let's say that he's struggling in something. and he doesn't know where to go. He knows he can go to you. He knows that even if you don't know the answer, you can sit down together and try to find resources that will help give him the answer. And I think if anything comes of that, I think what parents should understand, or guardians, people who are in charge of the care and welfare of somebody younger, anybody who falls into that category, I think they need to understand that if this younger person has an open communication of no judgment and feels safe to ask whatever without being yelled at or shamed, then that to me is the home life doing their job. That's, that's where they pick up that piece. It doesn't even have to be educational. It just has to be present. It has to be, does my kid feel safe to call me from a party because they were drinking and they know they're underage and they know I won't like it, but do they feel safe enough to call me to come get them?
Yeah. Mommy, can you call me an Uber? I'm drunk.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to walk home. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Call you
Yeah.
an Uber and we're going to have this conversation when you're sober.
Yeah. And then
I'm grateful that you're safe, and thank God that,
yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole point is that when we do have that conversation, we should start the conversation with, why did you want to do that? What was your decision making process in getting to that point? Let's talk about that, and let's see where it sort of went off track, and let's figure out a better outcome. Not, you're too young to drink, you shouldn't be drinking, that's a horrible thing, you're going to get arrested, and all those things are probably true.
Yeah.
But we never ask why. What decision did you make to get where you were going? Maybe the answer will always be because my friends were, maybe that's always going to be the answer. Then we have to talk about peer pressure and what that means to be your own individual person, and the chance of being lonely because you don't follow the herd. But see how that question is going to open up all these other topics that you need to hit on, which again, are all part of reproductive health education. That's what we talk about when we talk about the biopsychosocial model, the biology, the psychology, and the sociology of being a person. Always, these three factors always shake hands. The biology is how we're built, how we're wired. The psychology is how our mind works with that biology, and the sociology is what we're swimming in. It's the social impact and everything around us, what we see, the music we listen to, the friends we keep. Those three things always shake hands.
Yeah. I love it. That book is so freaking brilliant. So freaking brilliant. It really is,
thanks.
though. Like in my work, I look a lot from like getting people into a space where when you know exactly who you are and you're very clear, like, how do you see yourself? How do you see others? And how do you see the world? And then how those interactions are happening, right? And what is the meaning that you put on all this connections, so with yourself, with others, and with the world? And of course, it's very helpful in order to identify and establish your own boundaries and relationships, and so on and so on, like the whole freaking life. But when I'm thinking of two aspects, the conversations that I have with my clients, and we are so focused on doing this work and become better humans, right? Because we didn't have the education and And then the conversation that is not happening with preteen and teen, because the parents are in my Zoom room learning how to figure out life. So they don't know how to hold the space for their own children. Right? And then what are the chances that child has? School. Well, the school doesn't want to teach the things that you put them like black on white, word by word, how to be taught.
Right.
So that's what scares me. And even though, and I appreciate you, you acknowledge, like, I have a great and open communication relationship with my kid. And there are moments when I don't know what to do and I don't know what to say. I'm a freaking qualified coach and transformational coach and all the things. And it's all I could do is just to sit there. All I could do is to sit there. And then I'm like, oh my God, other kids have nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Or
that's scary.
they're having conversations with each other, which is nothing. Well,
Terrifying.
it's a foundation of sand, right? I mean, it's always shifting. And I also think what's really important, and one of the things I always try to stress when dealing with parents and doing parent classes, because we do those as well, is to explain to them that what you're seeing is a moving, living, dynamic process. So the conversation or the relationship you have with your kid right now can change. It can shift and it may be nothing you did. It just may be the biology of hormones. It just may be, something that they're not ready yet to express or share. And so I think that it's important to know that that will shift. And I also tell that to the students, how you feel now about your body, about your life choices for maybe what you want to do as a career, what you want to study in school. Those things may change, and that's okay. Change is okay. It's really scary. Doesn't always work out, but it's a natural process of moving forward. And so when you have people who are really locked in, like, no, I will feel this way forever, I always caution, because sometimes we have to bend so we don't break. And if we're too rigid, we can break. And we'll snap. Yeah, so I always want to leave that door open for them to say, look, I'm giving you this ability to know that what you're feeling now may change. And that's okay. Because if it doesn't, okay, you're familiar with it, you're going to grow with it. But if it does change, be open to that thought process of something new.
Yeah. I'm a believer in changing every day. In my community, I'm like, you wake up a new person every day. Give yourself 2 minutes in the mirror while you're brushing your teeth to meet that person in the mirror. You a new person every day.
Mm.
Everything that happened today, it left a print. It doesn't matter how tiny, it left a print of your identity. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to be a new person. With that little tiny, that might appear insignificant change, it impact my identity. So somebody way smarter than me said, the only constant is change.
For sure.
And I love that.
Of course.
We evolve.
Yes. And I think that, that's important. And for people who are raising more than one child, they're all different. They may have come from the same trees, but they're leaves that are different. And so, and I learned that the hard way, treating my kids the same or expecting the same from each of them. That wasn't fair to me or them. But we got through it. I'm one of 6. And so, we're all different, but yet kind of the same, but yet different, and so I think as a society, we're recognizing that. But I think the most important takeaway from all of this, and I know you're very aware of it, is that we don't live in a society anymore where we have privacy. And so we need to understand that our kiddos don't have any privacy, and they don't understand that, and they don't necessarily want that, because they want the exposure, the media, the likes. How many likes did I get? How many thumbs up? How many heart emojis? And I want to, it's so hard growing up anyway. Everybody wants to be liked or fit in. Imagine having that played out in a digital format, 24/7, 365 days a year, forever. And I didn't grow up with that. I didn't have that. Obviously, I was born in 1960. We didn't have that. And so we actually had this thing called away. We could go home and shut the door and be away from those influences and from those factors that could affect our mood and could cause, elation or depression. You'd walk into school the next morning and you'd hear the latest. What did you hear? What happened last night? Because somebody,
It's a different type of gossip, though.
It was a different type
It
of
was a
gossip.
private gossip, was behind the doors, was not flashing all over the media on 17 different accounts.
Right.
In 1 second. Yeah.
Exactly. And so think about that. We walked into school getting the information, whereas the whole world got it before you walked into school. And
now you go to school and you're the last on the list because you don't know the information you should have known it because you have a phone. So it's a lot of pressure with that too. Did you not see it? Did you not read it? Did you find it's like you have to be on top of your phone and check all the TikToks and all the snaps and all the things, or you're a loser if you don't do so. And that's a full-time job.
Media is such a time suck. It is. And it's an emotional drainer. And now I think there are a lot of parents who are starting to say, nope, give me your phone. You don't need your phone at night. Give me your phone and take it out of their bedroom at night. And then they go to school like, oh, I didn't know because my folks took my phone. And then they're like, well, you're just a little weirdo. And really in some level though, they're relieved that they don't have to process this all the time. And for the other kids, they're kind of jealous that they don't have somebody that involved saying, I'm going to protect you from this blue light. And I think for us to ignore this, we're at a crescendo of it is time to tell our kids the whole story, cradle to grave, age appropriate, age dependent learning, and to stop the foolishness of this isn't an important topic. It's really important. It's really important.
4 years ago or so, when I first interviewed you in my first podcast, you say something that really stuck with me. I'm going to paraphrase here.
It was 4 years ago. Wow.
4? Yeah, I think it was 4. Yeah. You said that there is no difference than teaching our kids math. And why, how much they will use that in life and how much they will use, help.
Yes, exactly.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm sorry, but
no, that's.
I feel it better than I remember it. I'm like,
but that's basically it, right? We build on our knowledge from kindergarten to 12th grade on every topic except this one. Except this one. On this one, we give like 2 lectures in high school and say, you're good. And I'm thinking, wow, you're good.
And then we wonder why we end up in like shitty situation and our relationship don't work. And it's like the marriages don't hold and the friends don't stay and so on and so on. Why? Because we are experts in math and physics. I'm talking about myself. But I didn't learn how to do life ever.
Right. And the classes they do have in high school about how to do life are usually electives. So it's a conundrum. It is. So we just need to find different avenues to get this topic in there, because I don't think schools are going to jump on this, right? They have probably made it clear they're not going to. So we just need to find a different way. And that's why people like you, and thank you for being you to do these podcasts, because there's this outreach, and hopefully, adults will listen to these and then have their kids listen to them, and then off we go. Right. And that's how we start.
And it's one way. So we just, as you say, we find different ways. So let's get this book in the hands of as many people as possible. For those of you listening or watching are here on YouTube or on Spotify, please open the description. You find the links to Betsy's podcast. It's not
human sexuality,
and just listen to this. Listen by yourself first. Invite your teens, invite your preteens, take your notes, and then of course all the links to the website, to Look Both Ways organization. Anything else that you want to add in closing, Betsy? Like, is it there a space that you want to invite this audience, like for parents or parents of teens?
I think we try to hit all audiences with all of our podcasts. I wouldn't say that any of our episodes are, I would say that all of our episodes are probably G-rated. And, we do have teenagers, high school students that do listen to our podcast. We find that wonderful. But we also have mostly adults. And but yeah, I appreciate the shout out. And I think you're doing a great service by having people, giving them the opportunity to share their, their expertise and getting this out to everybody of all ages.
Well, it's all I can do. When I figure out something else, I do something else. But I really wake up in the morning and say, hey, if we help one person to move forward, that's a freaking amazing day.
Yeah.
And
I hear
if
that.
we
Yeah.
trigger a person and just have them stuck for a minute to ask, like, what the hell? That's another win. So for me, they're equally important.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's that. It's like, yeah, I like to have billions of dollars and I like to have billions of views and go viral and all that. But as my kid told me earlier today, is like, well, there's diseases that go viral, and we have a whole conversation about that.
Yeah, that's not the good viral. That's not the good viral.
But that's how we create an impact at this level today. That's how I create an impact. If I talk with the person and that person tell another sister and she's talking with the kid, that kid is going to go different and it's going to show up differently in his adult world. And that's a freaking amazing impact.
It is. And it's like we talked about the pebble in the pond, let's be the pebble and let's let our rings reverberate out and touch all the rings until we get to the edge, and then it comes back into the center. And so that to me is change. So let's be the pebble in the pond.
Yes, the ripple effect is forever and ever. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and I appreciate your work, and I cannot wait to have you back, because you already know that I'm going to invite you back.
Well, thanks for reaching out. I love our conversations, and it's just nice to know that it's been this long since we've met. It seems like time has just passed quite quickly, for sure.
It does, because we are busy bees.
We are, yeah.
We celebrate everyone. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today. I would love to hear from you. What inspired you? What triggered you? And what interests you? Please join the conversation by leaving your comments and your insights. Explore more about Bear Experience at simonaspark.com/bear. I hope you listen, follow, rate, and review all of our episodes. I can't wait to have you back. Till then, be Bear. Beautiful, authentic, real, and ever evolving.